Hello, my name is Aiden, and this is my brother Brendan. This is Writing Quest, and in this episode, we are going to be finishing the prologue.
Boom!
Hello, so in the last episode, I wrote the last little passage in the prologue, and then Brendan had the honor and privilege to read it and react to it.
The honor and privilege, of
I know,
course.
right? Yeah, exactly. It's beautiful. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I felt great writing it. I felt that everything came together. I know that there were a few things that I left out that I know that you're going to want to add in, like I after reading it later.
First, though, I need to point out, this is the first Writing Quest video where I wore a different hat.
Oh, yeah.
It's a totally different hat. It's a new thing. We're in a new world now.
Crazy. Okay, so, Brendan.
Aiden.
Did you like it or hate it?
All right. I liked what you did.
Okay.
I liked the first time you wrote, and I read it, and I was like, this is the worst. Absolutely hate it. Now that I've gotten past that, we're in a new place. We're in a nice place. And I liked this. The first thing I really liked was apparently Brick is a magic user. Was that a surprise to you as well?
Yes. Well, no, because it felt really natural at this point. We haven't talked about beyond the waypoint. We haven't even said that they're like magic beings. We haven't even explained that to the reader.
It's true.
So I was like, what's a really subtle way to just kind of be like, hey.
I didn't even think of that. You're right. We haven't said anything.
Brendan, the readers don't know.
We haven't shown any magic. We haven't even talked about magic.
There's
nothing.
There's talking dogs and there's fighting that happens, apparently.
You're right.
So I was thinking, I don't want magic to just be like, magic all in your face and stuff. Yeah. I wanted it to be, just to enter it in, just in a little like, oh, okay. Mm-hmm. So this is, not only is it a...
Also, I can definitely see where you've recently watched The Hobbit.
That's what I was just about to say.
And Gandalf does that.
And that's what I was just about to say, is like, I wanted it to just be a little subtle thing, like, oh, this is something that not only exists, but it's casual. Mm-hmm. And then in my writing video, where all of you saw, I talk about how I was like, this is an ode to The Hobbit. This is an ode to Gandalf right here. It's such a great way to do this. Love The Hobbit. Putting it in there. Why? Because I'm the writer and I can do that.
Yeah, I like so Brick, I'm starting to even see who's the short little squat pirate from Peter Pan, who's like Captain Hook's
guy. Shmee, yeah.
So like I started seeing Brick as Shmee. So imagine Shmee just sitting there like using a little bit of magic, and you're like, wait a minute, he can use magic?
What? And you're just like, what?
Okay.
All right.
Like,
but it's such a great little way, and I thought it was like, and it's an elemental thing, I thought, which was really great, which is a huge
foreshadowing
thing. We don't have to read all of this and everything.
No. As we go down, so that was the first thing. I was like, oh, okay, Brick's a magic user. That's an interesting thing to talk about as you write. It's like, when you first wrote Brick, you were like, I don't know. You didn't even think of him as a magic user.
I didn't even think of Brick as Brick. I thought of him as, really want to, this scene is really intense, I need to cut the cheese a little bit.
Now you're writing again, and you're thinking, and you're just, I can see you, like, because I've done this before, where you're just typing, and all of a sudden you're like, wait, oh, okay, I wrote that. It just, all of a sudden it comes out of you, and you go, oh, there it is.
That's informed from the kind of stories that we read. It feels natural that that's where that would have gone, but that we're informed by the movies we've watched, the books that we've read, and that's where that comes from. So if you're ever wondering, hey, how do I write good characters? How do I write these things that authors are writing? It's because authors read. You can't write without reading.
Read a lot of books. Yeah, if you watched episode 2, bookshelves behind us, full of books. Aiden's got a whole bookshelf over here full of books. Yeah. We read a lot of books, and we read a lot of the stuff that we're writing in. I liked that part, and then we went down, and but then you gave us this moment where you talked about how many people there are. So we kind of have a gauge now.
Yeah, plot-wise.
So you said like 50, 65, 70, nearly 80 families. So if you extrapolate that, that's like 4 people-ish a family.
Give or take.
So you're talking a few hundred people.
Yeah,
so
mom, dad, elderly person, children, maybe.
We didn't know what that was. And then you talked about, but you went through the waypoint and some of them got lost in between. I'm glad you gave it a number. We briefly did talk about that off camera.
Right.
you're like, how many people do you think? And I was like,
I was thinking of this as this is the ragtag team that sets it up.
They survived.
They survived.
They made it,
And, like, I feel like they were part of thousands.
Whatever the Awakening was.
Yeah, we still don't even know what that is.
We talked about the Awakening. I wrote that in the first episode, and I was like, you're like, what's the Awakening? I'm like, I don't know.
So we'll get to that.
We still don't know what that is.
What did you think of me calling it, so it's the Waypoint, but I called it People Who Didn't Survive the Import.
Is import a word?
I don't know. I don't think it is. I know importing talks about
importing is a word. Like,
yes,
import footage.
Right. And
I don't know.
I've no idea. I know that importing is or an import is a type of conniving politician, I believe is what the definition is. But no, I thought, I don't know, I was like import, and I was like no. Import. That sounds different.
We'll play with it. Maybe we'll do a little research. Figure out what. Yeah, I'm not opposed. Yeah, so there, like, I like how you kind of like, you did this thing where, so we went through the Waypoint, a bunch of people showed up, but it's so, basically what you said here was, it's so new. We haven't even cataloged who made it.
Yeah,
we
like
haven't
this
even figured
just
it out.
happened.
Like, it just happened. We're talking like within the hour.
Yeah.
We all showed up. We maybe started working on some shelter, and Agorath kind of was like, "I'm gonna go take first watch."
I think of it as they imported. And they got there. Imported.
Yeah.
I think they imported, and we can totally change that. That was just like, I need a verb for this. I think that it happened, and then he turned around and he saw how many people weren't there.
Right.
And then
so he hadn't thought, like, they showed up, and then he ran off to see what was going on.
No.
But he hadn't, like...
I think that he turned around, he saw behind him how many people weren't there. Right. And then he stuck around enough, like, people are like, what do we do now? And he told people what to do. He, as their leader, gave them direction. Like, he fulfilled his duty and stuff.
So he is the leader.
It feels right, don't you think? It feels right.
So,
I think that he's not supposed to be.
Offline, Aiden, so when we write, we sometimes text briefly. We're trying to keep it as, like, on camera as possible.
Right.
But he texted me and he's like, so is Agorath the leader? And I was like... I feel like that's my whole... Every response is like...
It's coming together.
Apparently, Agorath is the leader.
Okay, so I think that he gave them all orders. He said, this is what needs to happen. And then he told them he needed a moment alone. But I don't think that he told people I needed a moment alone. I think he said, I'm going to go take a look around. Or I'm going to go scout, you know.
So he just went off.
And he just went off. And he probably sent other scouts out with it, too. You know, that kind of thing.
Oh, hey, that's something to explore.
Like, oh, there's more people that went out. Because
he could show up and then, you know, he has his little fight with the Gaian. So he has a little fight with Gaian. That's something to explore maybe in the next chapter of, like, the other scouts come back.
Yeah.
And like, okay, what'd you find?
Yeah. Because they've never been to this land before.
So here's the thing. When you said something about they came through the Waypoint and some didn't survive, I don't know where that is. No. There's no way to have an accurate count of who been caught in the realm between this land and the last. You said realm. So what that says to me, so in my head, it was like... They're over here on this continent or this country.
Something.
Say. And now they're in this country.
Right.
You said realm, which now is like, is it like Thor?
Dimension-y.
Are you in different dimensions? Are you in like the 9 realms where are you on Midgard? Are you at, you know, like what's the...
In my brain, and this is fresh. You just made me think of this.
That's like a explosive, like...
World expanding thing. Yeah. Here's my thought you just gave me. I think that it is one planet, and they were in a land, and then there's a land on the other side, and the importing goes straight through. And then the realm in between is just the inside
core
of the earth.
So a waypoint gets you... Bro. A waypoint, all a waypoint. Dude, holy crap. A waypoint. A waypoint can only go straight through. So wherever you are here gets you over here. Which, in my other story, I had already thought... Anyway, holy crap.
Do you need to sit with that?
So, in my other story... how the bad guy ends up showing up was kind of like a waypoint, but I didn't call it that.
Yeah.
So I've been thinking, hey, I'll call it a waypoint because Aiden created a waypoint. Great. But now the challenge for them was they had to find the exact point on the other side of the planet. Oh.
Dude.
Okay, that's great. Waypoints, that's a good way of how they work.
We're going to have to think about that.
Gives them a limit, but they're powerful, but it gives them a limit.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Now remember, when it first came up with the idea of the waypoint, I was just thinking they were traveling away. They set up temporary camps so they could keep on going, but have a place to go back to if they needed to. And now look what it's turned into.
I should bring up... I brought this. This is the actual original novel. We've talked about that a few times. It says, The Old Man. Now, the Old Man, for Chapter 1, is Artemis.
That's why
he freaked out about, anyways.
Give him a flip through. Show them how satisfying it feels.
That's a whole rough draft of a book. There it is. Woo!
Cost me $25 to print that for you.
It's true. I appreciate that.
Getting that printed, do you know this story? I don't know if you know this story.
No, I don't.
That was my fiance and I's first date.
Was printing this book.
Was printing that off.
So if you ever make a bunch of money off of it, she'll feel validated. Back to the story of Wolves and Wizards.
Of Wolves and Wizards.
So anyways, that's great. That's a really awesome, that's pretty much that's most of my things. The only thing, I'll talk about my next part. What were you thinking? What was your,
okay,
when you were writing this?
So I did the intro for the last video and I was like, okay, now I write. And I had no idea what to write. You may notice that Artemis and Morthul went back into the tent with Guyan.
You didn't have anywhere for Artemis to be.
I didn't have anywhere to be, and I don't feel comfortable yet writing Artemis yet until we really know his place, because I know he's near and dear to your heart too. So I was like, this was super intense. Earlier in the chapter, what did we do with Brick? Brick was he was the other side of it. It's like Brick is meant to make Agorth not flatten. That's his purpose right now as a storytelling tool.
Agorth is very much like, I am prestigious, I am leading my people, I have a singular focus, and Brick is the antithesis to that. Like, I'm gonna poke holes in all the things you're trying to do, and yeah.
Yes. And I think that'll work for them as it goes on in the future. So I was thinking, okay, really awkward fight just happened. Everyone saw it. It was the boss's brother fight, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So what would be the coolest thing? And it would be like a Brick going like,
yeah.
So I thought that would be pretty interesting. I also wanted to set up, if money was still worth anything, I would have bet 10 coins on it.
I was going to say, you set up money.
I set up an entire economy that no longer exists.
Yeah. Well, you just said coins, so what could that be? Who knows?
No idea.
Yeah.
But I was like, I wanted to use that as
money.
There was a society before. It no longer exists now. I thought that Brick would try to...
Brick is like the grounding character.
He's a grounding character, and I think that when here it says Agorth didn't know if Brick was trying to cheer him up or kick him while he was down, but either way, he hated him in that moment. Brick is like an emotional sounding board for Agorth, so like he's a way that we can actually share what Agorth is feeling.
He's like the pain in the butt.
Yeah.
Like, I can't dismiss you. I actually kind of like you around, but also I'm a little mad at you all the time.
Yeah. I hate that you're around.
Every time you show up, I'm upset. Yeah.
Yeah. Go do something useful for a change, Brick, blah, blah, blah. So I talked about his injury a little bit, and one thing that I really wanted to emphasize was to set up for later is that Agorth hopes that Gian will forgive him. Guyan will forgive him. Guyan. That's going to be a thing forever. I think that Agorth hopes that Gian will forgive him. Guyan will forgive him. Yeah. But I show that very well when he says Guyan had done much worse with much less to many others in his time. Perhaps that was Guyan's subconscious way of telling Agorth he didn't really blame him.
Yeah.
But that was probably wishful thinking.
So it's him kind of like... So that's a sentence there that could be a way we could go about like showing versus telling, because I think how you're saying it right now is a telling
a little bit.
So if we could adjust it like what you're trying to say is good, but if we could change it to a telling somehow.
Yeah.
That's a thing I struggle with, show versus tell.
Yeah.
So, like, put something in the comments. If you have something that's like the magic bullet for showing versus telling, that would be great.
We would love to hear it.
Because
I don't know. Sometimes you just gotta tell. So then, I think that after that, Agorth tries to distract himself. I think he's ready to actually embrace how many people did we lose a little bit. So he's talking about, he counts them all. And then I also set up, Agorth hoped for a few dozen magi, which I was like, that kind of sets up.
We have a non-magic community. We have a magic community. How many more are there? Maybe there's a few more. Maybe you lost a lot more. I liked that was a good line.
Right.
And then I liked how you went into this, like, you just went into a quick, he's grieving, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, seriously. And I said at one point that Agorth's flaw could be sometimes that he's just too serious. And I think that this is his flaw showing, is that, I mean, yes, it's the time to grieve and everything, but I think that this is going to push him, right? This is going to push him really into that grief.
Yeah, what's going to be interesting is, like, Agorth, so if it's his sister-in-law and his niece that dies, it's a grief, but it's a different kind of grief, so it'll be a different kind of, like, how do we show Gaian's grief and Gorath's grief, and how are they different,
and showing how they're feeling. But I think, so what's really powerful of prepping this is he wept for his niece's death, okay? So that is him acknowledging and him accepting and him allowing himself to feel that his niece died. And he feels sad about that. He hurts for that.
Also, you made it a niece. We didn't know what it was before. We just said the baby.
No. You said you killed her before. Yeah, you said you killed her. Gain's yelling at Agorth and said, you killed her. And you could have been talking about his wife, Delmaya.
It's true. I honestly...
So it could have been that. Who knows?
Sketch.
Wept for his niece's death. I think later what we can do, what that sets up, is we can have Gaian say, you don't care. You never cared about her. Because you never held her in her arms while she was alive. Yeah. You know, something like that. And then, but the reader knows that Agorth felt for his niece and felt for his brother in this moment. So this moment is critical for his turn.
And he's having that moment too where, like, you know, when a grief happens sometimes, it's like, how do you grieve but also keep pushing forward? So he's at this moment, Agorth is at this moment where, like, he has to keep leading the people. So he like can't grieve.
Yeah, he doesn't have the space to grieve yet. But this is his moment that he lets it feel. Wait, last thing. He wished his father and mother were still alive because he thought they would surely know what to do. But no, they were gone now. In that moment, Agorth felt completely alone, completely powerless. Yeah. What did you think of the last sentence?
I liked that you added, so like a reference to a father and a mother. So he had a family, maybe he came up in a good home, that kind of thing. I like that you're giving him, like, that's a good contrast with, there's a grief, he still has to lead, and he's alone in all of that. Yeah. So he doesn't know what to do. Like,
and his only person that he might be able to rely on is Gaian. But
what you captured there really well is that, you know, when you go from being a kid to a teenager to an adult, you have this moment where everyone thinks you're supposed to know what you're doing, but you don't know what you're doing. Yeah. And so he's at this, I think he's at this moment of, like, I feel super alone. This bad thing just happened, but also we're in a new play. You know, he's just he's like, I don't know what to do. Yeah. And so he just feels alone.
Father and mother, I think that Agorth is not supposed to be leader right now. I think that it was a tragedy or something, and so he's unwillingly thrust into this leadership role. I think that
maybe his parents got lost in the waypoint.
That could have happened. Agorth felt completely alone, completely powerless.
Gotta scratch that itch.
I think that Agorth being alone and powerless in this moment, heroes, think about heroes when they're alone and they're powerless, like, they have that moment of, I'm going to stand up and I'm going to be the hero. I think for this, is the start of his fall. Like, this shows that, like, I will never be powerless again. Yes. And even though he doesn't know that, but that's what it's gradually going to turn into.
Yeah, that's good. As I read this, though, and I reread the whole thing, so we're at 2,050 words is where we're at, which is pretty good. That's about like a 10-page. I think when I read through the whole thing, though, there's a lot of gaps to fill in. So I think when I write next, I'm going to go back through and I'm going to just add it. I'm going to pepper in additions to just flesh out. We didn't, like in the beginning, the very beginning of this, there's no description of Gorath. There's barely a description of the wolf.
But now we know.
Yeah, now we know. So, like, now that we know some things, we can go back and, like, one of the things I thought that you would do, which you didn't do, which I'll go back and maybe add, you didn't take... I thought a Gorath would go into tent.
Oh.
See, so, like, I'm out, and then they'd be like, she's awake, or she's needing you. So Gaian would go in, and then a Gorath would follow. I even thought about, like, maybe that's where Gaian's wife dies. While a Gorath is in there. See, so that's like, spoiler, sorry. So
everything's a spoiler.
Everything's a spoiler. So I do think I'm going to go back, I'm going to add some things, and I'm going to add some sentences randomly and try to make it, so like we have a really good beginning story, so now I'm going to try to like make it fleshed out.
Yeah. And now that we know more about it and everything.
And, you know, so if we have what, 2,000 some words, if I added like 500, that would like flesh out the whole thing.
Yeah. And that's the prologue, and I think that that's a great place to set it. So, Brendan, where are we going?
I think you gave us that. Good job. So... you gave us how many people there are. So we have that part to go where we can talk about... you know, we can have a moment where they're in the camp, you know, all that kind of stuff. Maybe a Gorath is tending to the needs of things. You can also go, so we have the wolves, so maybe we have another interaction with the wolves, so maybe we have a moment where they try to go find them, you know.
Something like that, yeah.
We also have, you said earlier, the other scouts. So maybe the other scouts come back.
Or don't.
They tell us a bunch of things, or don't, and give us a bunch of new information.
Okay.
Also, then you still have the tragedy of Gaian's wife.
Yes.
And baby.
I don't think she's dead. I don't think the wife dies.
I mean,
like, whatever happens, but, like...
maybe she dies later.
I feel like at some point, Gaian and Agorath have to be able to work around each other.
Yes. So maybe the death of the wife is, like, too much grief.
Yeah. So, like, child dying, very sad. And then maybe she can die later to further...
in book 2.
Wedge.
Yeah, I think you're right. Maybe who knows? We'll see.
Just make this super dark. We should make it super dark, but illustrate it like a children's book.
Yeah. Anyways, that's where we're going.
Yeah.
We have a couple things to go through. You know, we could cut to a whole other thing. We could just cut straight to the wolves. Maybe that white wolf goes back to them.
That would be cool. Well, my thing is, this is a prologue, right? So, like, this isn't even chapter 1, technically.
It's not even the beginning of the story.
So...
it's the beginning of the beginning.
Yeah, so I think this is the setup for the beginning. So, you're writing next, so do whatever you feel like is natural.
Fair.
But
I'll try to flesh some of this out and then write the beginning of the next chapter. Chapter 1. Ooh, that's daunting. I don't know.
Weird. So, Brendan... Chapter 1. Time skip.
Dear Lord.
That bad, huh?
Not a bad plan. Not a bad plan.
And this is when Harry Potter comes in.
Yeah, could do like the dumb... anyways.
Rambling.
Wrap it up.
Okay, so if you liked this content and you want to see more, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below, and then hit the little bell right next to it, and you'll be notified next time we make a video. Also, make sure to like this video if you liked it. Also, if you didn't like it, dislike it. But most importantly, we really hope that you got something out of this, because this show is for you. Yes, we're writing a book, but at the same time, this is to help you see what goes in through writers' minds as they write a book.
The only thing I would add is make sure to go to Wattpad, where we are posting the book as we go.
Every Monday is updated.
Every Monday it's updated, so you can read it as we are writing it. We'll see you next time on...
Writing Quest.
Boom!